In the evening, we are hauled up onto the chopping block. I'm frightened and think quickly what I ought to do, for everyone knows that the surgeons in the dressing stations amputate on the slightest provocation. Under the great business that is much simpler than complicated patching, I think of Kemerick. Whatever happens, I will not let them chloroform me, even if I have to crack a couple of their skulls. It is all right. The surgeon pokes around in the wound, and a blackness comes before my eyes. Don't carry on so, he says gruffly, and hacks away. The instruments gleam in the bright light like marvelous animals. The pain is insufferable. Two orderlies hold my arms fast, but I break loose with one of them and try to crash into the surgeon's spectacles just as he notices and springs back. Chloroform the scoundrel, he roars madly. Then I become quiet. Pardon me, Herr Doctor. I will keep still, but do not chloroform me. Well now, he cackles and takes up his instrument again. He is a fair fellow, not more than 30 years old, with scars and disgusting gold spectacles. Now I see that he is tormenting me. He is merely raking about the wound and looking up surreptitiously at me over his glasses. My hands squeeze around the grips. I'll kick the bucket before he will get a squeak out of me. He has fished out a piece of shell and tosses it to me. Apparently he is pleased at my self-control, for he now sets my leg carefully in splints and says, "Tomorrow you'll be off home." Then I am put in plaster. When I am back again with Krop, I tell him apparently a hospital train comes in tomorrow morning. We must work the Army Medical Sergeant Major so that we can keep together, Albert. I manage to slip the Sergeant Major two of my cigars with belly bands and tip the word to him. He smells the cigars and says, "Have you got any more of them?" "Another good handful," I say, "and my comrade," and I point to Krop. "He has some as well. We might possibly be glad to hand them to you if out the window of the hospital train in the morning." He understands, of course, and smells them once again and says, "Done." We cannot get a minute's sleep all night. One of them sings hymns in a high cracked tenor before he begins to gurgle. Another has crept out of his bed to the window. He lies in front of it as though he wants to look out for the last time. Our stretchers stand on the platform. We wait for the train. It rains and the station has no roof. Our blankets are thin. We have already waited 2 hours. The sergeant major looks after us like a mother. Although I feel pretty bad, I do not let our scheme out of mind. Casually, I let him see the packet and give him one cigar in advance. In exchange, the sergeant major covers us with a waterproof sheet. "Albert, old man," I suddenly bethink myself, "our four-poster and the cat, and the club chairs," he adds. "Yes, the club chairs with the red plush. In the evening, we used to sit in them like lords, and intended later on to let them out by the hour. One cigarette per hour. It might have turned into a regular business, a real good living. And our bags of grub too, Albert." We grow melancholy. We might have made some other use of the things. If only the train left one day later, Cat would be sure to find us and bring us the stuff. What damned hard luck. In our bellies there is gruel, mean hospital stuff. In our bags, roast pork. We are so weak that we cannot work up any more excitement about it. The stretchers are sopping wet by the time the train arrives in the morning. The sergeant major sees to it that we are put in the same car. There's a crowd of Red Cross nurses. Krop is stowed in below. I'm lifted up and told to get into bed above him. "Good God," I explain suddenly. "What is it?" asks the sister. I cast a glance at the bed. It is covered with clean, snow-white linen that even has got the marks of the iron still on it. My shirt has gone 6 weeks without being washed and is terribly muddy. "Can you get in by yourself?" asks the sister gently. "Why, yes," I say in a sweat. "But take off the bed cover first." "What for?" I feel like a pig. "Must I get in there? Will it will get," I hesitate, "a little bit dirty?" She suggests helpfully. "That doesn't matter. We will wash it again afterwards." "No, no, not that," I say excitedly. "I'm not equal to such overwhelming refinement." "When you have been lying out there in the trenches, surely we can wash a sheet," she goes on. I look at her. She is young and crisp, spotless and neat, like everything here. A man cannot realize that it isn't for officers only, and feels himself strange and in some way even alarmed. All the same, the woman is a tormentor. She is going to force me to say it. "It's only," I try again. Surely she must know what I mean. "What is it then?" "It's because of the lice," I bawl out at last. She laughs. "Well, they must have a good day for once, too." Now I don't care anymore. I scramble into bed and pull up the covers. A hand gropes over the bed cover. The sergeant major. He goes off with the cigars. An hour later, we notice we are moving. I wake up during the night. Crop is restless too. The train rides easily over the rails. I cannot realize it all yet. A bed, a train, home. Albert, I whisper. Yes? Do you know where the latrine is? The door on the right, I think. I'm going to have a look. It is dark. I grope down the edge. I grope for the edge of the bed and cautiously try to slide down, but my foot finds no support. I begin to slip. The plaster legs are no help, and with a crash, I lie on the floor. Damn, I say. Have you bumped yourself? Asks Crop. You could hear that well enough yourself, I growl in my head. The door opens at the rear of the car. The sister comes in with a light and looks at me. He's fallen out of bed. She feels my pulse and soothes my forehead. You haven't any fever, though. No, I agree. Have you been dreaming them? She asks. Perhaps, I evade. The interrogation starts again. She looks at me with her clear eyes, and the more wonderful and sweet she is, the less I am able to tell her what I want. I'm lifted up into bed again. That will be all right. As soon as she goes, I must try to climb down again. If she were an old woman, it might be easier to say what a man wants, but she is so very young. At most 25. It can't be done. I cannot possibly tell her. Then Albert comes to my rescue. He is not bashful. It makes no difference to him who is upset. He calls to the sister. The sister turns around. Sister, he wants. But no more does Albert know how to express it modestly and decently. Out there we say it in a single word, but here, to such a lady, all at once he remembers his school days and finishes hastily. He wants to leave the room, sister. Ah, says the sister, but he shouldn't climb out of his bed with a plaster bandage. What do you want then? She says, turning to me. I am in mortal terror at this turn, for I haven't any idea what the things are called professionally. She comes to my help. Little or big? Shocking business. I sweat like a pig and say shyly, well, only quite a little one. At any rate, it produces the effect. I get a bottle. After a few hours, I'm no longer the only one, and by morning we are quite accustomed to it and ask for what we want without any false modesty. The train travels slowly. Sometimes it halts and the dead are unloaded. It halts often. Albert is feverish. I don't feel too bad. I have some pain, but the worst of it that apparently there are still lice under the plaster bandage. They itch terribly and I cannot scratch myself. We sleep through the days. The country glides quietly past the window. The third night we reach Herbesthal. I hear from the sister that Albert is to be put off at the next station because of his fever. How far does the train go? I asked. To Cologne. Albert, I say, we stick together. You see, on the sister's next round, I hold my breath and press it up to my head. My face swells and turns red. She stops. Are you in pain? Yes, I groan. All of a sudden, she gives me a thermometer and goes on. I would not have been under Kat's tuition if I did not know what to do now. These army thermometers are not made for old soldiers. All one has to do is drive the quicksilver up and then it stays without falling again. I stick the thermometer under my arm at a slant and flip it steadily with my forefinger. Then I give it a shake. I send it up to 102, but that is not enough. A match is held cautiously near to it, brings it up to 101.6. The sister comes back. I blow myself out of breath in short. I blow myself out, breathe in short gasps, goggle at her with vacant eyes, toss about restlessly, and mutter in a whisper, I can't bear it any longer. She notes me down on a slip of paper. I know perfectly well my plaster bandage will not be reopened if it can be avoided. Albert and I are put off together. We're in the same room in a Catholic hospital. That is a piece of luck. The Catholic infirmaries are noted for their good treatment and good food. The hospital has been filled up from our train. There are a great many bed cases amongst them. We do not get examined today because there are too few surgeons. The flat trolleys with the rubber wheels pass continually along the corridor and always with someone stretched at full length upon them. The damnable position, stretched out full length like that. The only time it is good is when one is asleep. The night is very disturbed. No one can sleep. Toward morning we doze a little. I wake up just as it grows light. The door stands open and I hear voices from the corridor. The others wake up too. One fellow who has been up there a couple of days already explains it to us. Up here in the corridor every morning the sisters say prayers. They call it morning devotion. And so that you can get your share, they leave the door open. No doubt it is well meant, but it gives us aches in our heads and bones. Such an absurdity, I say, just when a man is dropped off to sleep. All the light cases are up here. That's why they do it here, he replies. Albert groans. I get furious and call out, be quiet up there. A minute later, sister appears. In her black and white dress, she looks like a beautiful tea cozy. Shut the door, will you, sister, says someone. We are saying prayers. That is why the door is open, she responds. But we want to go on sleeping. Prayer is better than sleeping. She stands there and smiles innocently. And it is 7 o'clock already. Albert groans again. Shut the door, I snort. She is quite disconcerted. Apparently she cannot understand. But we were saying prayers for you too. Shut the door anyways. She disappears, leaving the door open. The intoning of the litany proceeds. I feel savage and say, I'm going to count up to 3. If it doesn't stop before then, I'll let something fly. Me too, says another. I count up to 5. Then I take hold of a bottle, aim, and heave it through the door into the corridor. It smashes into 1,000 pieces. The praying stops. A swarm of sisters appear and reproach us in concert. Shut the door, we yell. They withdraw. The little one who came first is the last to go. Heathen, she chirps, but the door shuts all the same. We have won.